We are talking about the quarterback. Yes, the coaching search too. Kaitlin Sharkey, WGN is here. Big show. Stick around. You are looking live at a very, very special CHGO Bears. We have given Adam Hogue the day off for the next 2 days. You can't give Hogue the day off and not bring in a big shooter. Kaitlin Sharkey, WGN is here, and you're here. Gregory.
That's right. I'm here.
Gregory.
Feeling the love, guys.
Yes.
We always have to have someone in between us, and if Hogue wasn't going to be here today, we had to find somebody, or it would have been.
I'll try.
It'd have been problematic.
It is true. It was my New Year's resolution that Greg Bragg is going to be my best friend in 2025.
It's not going to work.
All right.
It's working. I'm coming out. He's got a great pool in where do you live? Crown Point, Indiana.
That's right.
Okay.
Shout out the region.
You ever swam in an above ground pool, Kaitlin?
Yeah.
That's
Of course. Like, everyone's rocking the in-ground pools.
I'm a pampered North Shore kid.
I grew up in middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, so we had above-ground pools up there.
See, I'm growing. I've never made any money, and now one day if I ever have a pool, it will be an above ground pool, probably next to you. Maybe I'll.
Do you know how much an in-ground pool is?
No, I don't.
A lot of money.
I know. Then you got to maintain it.
As much as
a lot of concrete around there, right?
Yeah.
How much does your above ground pool cost you each summer? You figure
not as much as an in-ground pool. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. Johnny, one out of the starter. Carman is a tool. Thank you very much. I completely agree. All right. Hey, everyone's allowed to their opinions. Let's go. We're going to go into the coaching search, but, you were the one, Kaitlin, that got to sit down with Caleb before the end of the season. So congratulations on that. Good movement over there at WGN as always. And I just think it's interesting right now where everyone's looking at the coaching search and who's coming in here. What do you think is best for if you just made it about the QB and you just made it about Caleb, what are you prioritizing the offensive guru guy that's going to work with him, or hey, Caleb needs leader guy. That's what's best for now going into second year QB. I know it's a big question.
I know it's obviously you want an offensive minded coach to come in and work with Caleb like he wants for the next decade as he hopes here in the NFL, but I think more importantly, Caleb needs to be coached, and he needs to be coached in a hard way and coached about how to make that jump from first year to second year. Because it's one thing to come in rookie season, you're getting your toes wet, you're like, okay, feeling it out, understanding the work. And, he talked to me in that interview about how learning to take care of his body and what he needs. And when you're getting sacked 69 times, like how important all of that stuff is. And that's great. And that's part of becoming a pro. But I think for Caleb to take the next step, he needs a hard coach that's also has that brilliant offensive mind, but someone that's going to call him out and, like Thomas Brown said at the end of the season, not baby the quarterback. And I think at the beginning of the season, not that they were babying the quarterback, but everyone was kind of afraid to call Caleb out on some of his mistakes. And then that's kind of snowballs. He's not seeing things as clearly. And then I think moving forward, he has a lot of work to do in the offseason. I think he has a lot of work to do in the offseason.
Well, I mean, how does it, where did the Bears go wrong in this process? Because I felt like they were insulating him. When he first got drafted, he wasn't on a million shows. Wasn't as front-facing when he went to Wrigley and Comiskey. They threw out the first pitch. There was other players that threw out the first pitch. He didn't. And it just felt like a concerted effort to not push him. Then you had Hard Knocks, where they intro him with the Jordan music. And so, where did it go wrong where you're saying they needed – the players said it. They need to be coached harder. Caleb said it. How did they get to a point where – how do you not coach your rookie quarterback hard?
They're not at home with Caleb Williams, though. Right. They're not going home with Caleb Williams to seeing what he's doing outside of Hallis Hall. So, they can track their iPad time and see how much he's in the playbook and see how much he's learning. But outside of that building, what is Caleb really doing? And I'm not saying he wasn't working, and I'm not saying he wasn't training or practicing or all of those things outside of Hallis Hall. But I think that part gets lost in it sometimes. And he's still a 23-year-old coming into this season, understanding how much more work, because you're not just another player on the NFL team, you're the quarterback of the NFL, this NFL team. So you have to do that much more than everyone else, I think, to be a successful quarterback.
Yes, you're playing the most competitive position in all of sports against lunatics who prep all day long.
Yes.
And the bar just keeps going up and up and up. And guys are, it's all out there, what everyone else is doing. Well, if he's doing that, then I got to do this. And so, I mean, that's what's in front of him here, which, by the way, I hate even going down this road because I know it triggers Bears fans, but he's talking about his off season and he's playing Call of Duty and he's got the Marvel
video games,
and he has business and all these things. It's like, you got to have, I don't know what your breakdown of your day is, but it's interesting. Like on the they can track the iPads. I wasn't even thinking about that, but they fired yesterday the director of football analytics, Kirthy Chandraxon. I know that was a big name around Bears, but I wonder, was Kirthy not paying attention to how much time Caleb was on the iPad, and that's why
I don't think that's the.
I don't think that's where they.
Is that what he does?
No, the analytics guy is looking at the players.
I've never seen
roster
I don't think they have
building.
just an iPad guy on staff.
They look at how they call plays and how they're gonna choose players in the draft through analytics.
Maybe the next Kirk.
Not the analytics of Caleb Williams' iPad usage time, which is pretty self-explanatory.
I think the next Kirthy needs to have that part of that gig. That's look, they did this in Arizona.
I was gonna say it's Kyler Murray had to do it. So
dude, we need. I'm not. It's.
I think there's bigger issues than tracking the iPad time for the analytics guys.
All that being said, when you talk to him and you asked him to describe his rookie season, and his answer was
after a very long pause,
right, really long pause, right? And then he says it was a learning experience, which is sad because when you try to highlight the successes he had, he's done things no Bears quarterback has ever done, but it didn't feel like a success, and even his answer spoke to that. It was a learning experience. It wasn't this amazing thing for him. It was something that he has to take and learn from. So for you, do you think that the floor for Caleb Williams leads to optimism that, hey, if he can mature as young kids do at that age, I know at his age where I was mentally wasn't where he is. I also didn't have the money in my pocket. Probably would have been a bad thing. But I just feel like there is a lot of optimism knowing that this is his floor and where he can go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's still a pure, very talented, athletic human being that can play the quarterback position well. I think it's a matter of him figuring out, like he said, a learning experience. Granted, he went through a unique rookie experience as an NFL quarterback, but I think for him, the learning experience comes with how much he has to dedicate, how much he has to learn, work, grow, all of the extra work that goes into it, not just showing up when he needs to be there at Hallis Hall, doing what he needs to do on Sunday when the ball kicks off. It's so much more than that. And I think, even he was you could just tell he was exhausted that day that I talked to him. It was the end of the season, right before the Packers final game. And, when we're speaking before the cameras start rolling and I'm like, how you feeling? He's like, it's been a long year. And I think, we could all feel that, but you could just see it on his face. And I think he's going to take that and understand, I don't want to repeat what happened outside of the things he couldn't control. So if he addresses those things and works on them, the ceiling is still high. I'm not thinking that, okay, maybe we should start to worry that Caleb Williams isn't a good quarterback.
Right, and I completely agree. Look, the dude, touchdown interception ratio, excellent for a rookie. The fact that he, if we're just going to stayed healthy, took a ton of hits, was able to, and he just put himself in his interview with these on the St. Brown Brothers podcast that he called himself the best pocket presence passer in the history of the NFL, which is a little bit tall, but he did finagle his way around. So let's and made some unbelievable plays in the biggest moment. So there is a lot to like here. I also want to circle back to when you touched on Thomas Brown. I thought that Thomas Brown was going to have an impact. And every time you listen to Thomas Brown talk, it's that's exactly what you wanted to be saying. And then you talk to Bears players, and even you saw the last moment, TB, and yet he had seemingly no impact, which makes me wonder, what does that say about the locker room?
Well, I think it was Thomas Brown also having so many various roles. And maybe when he was starting to have an impact on Caleb Williams in this offense, guess what? You're going to be the interim head coach now. So that's a whole different plate of responsibilities and things that he probably had never even thought about as in terms of like, wait, I gotta figure that out for today. I gotta so then all of a sudden his attention's taken away from Caleb Williams as intensely as it was. So yeah, I mean, the whole situation, I knew they had to fire Flus and they had to make a move, but I had a feeling it wasn't going to get better. They weren't established or put in a place where that was going to galvanize them.
And that's where it's like, for me, when you talk about, okay, they need to get a coach that's going to coach these guys hard, coach Caleb hard, coach the team hard. All the players keep saying that. And it's true, but what worries me about that isn't that kind of an indictment on the individuals? You need a tough coach. You need to build that culture. But at the same time, you asking for it and acknowledging that this was the problem, how come there wasn't enough personal accountability within that locker room, and instead of trying to pass the blame down to leadership? Well,
I think we assume and we like to believe, especially as fans of the sport, that all 53 guys are like all in, die-hard workaholics who have given their life to the NFL. And there's a large majority that are, but that's not always the case. And there's been a lot of fluctuation in that locker room. There's not a lot of consistency. There's not guys that have been there from the last 5 years. I mean, outside of Cole and a couple others. So the turnover, that creates different dynamics. And you're assuming that everyone, you hope that everyone's as dialed in as you want them to be, but that's not always the case. So I think sometimes, especially when you're losing, you start losing and it's harder to be motivated.
So, I know we'll probably talk about McCarthy here later on, but I am curious, from your background where you covered the Green Bay Packers locally over there in Wisconsin, now you come here. For you, from an organizational standpoint, and the way players and coaches went about their business, the biggest differences you saw from what you covered in Green Bay to what you've seen in Chicago so far?
Leadership. I think every time you walked in the locker room in Green Bay, there were extremely vocal defensive leaders. We heard from the starting 5 offensive linemen talk to the media almost every single week. Yeah. And they were the leaders in that locker room, right? Like, you were talking to the guards and the tackles, and they were kind of the face of that offense. And then you went to your skill players. And then, of course, when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, it's easier for him to be that kind of vocal leader. But it was leadership. Those guys were they knew what they had to do. They knew what was required. They knew what the standard was. And it was just kind of set in stone in this expectation. And there wasn't a lot of turnover. Like, the guys that I covered were there the entire time with a couple different draft picks coming and going. But consistency, leadership, that all goes into culture. And it's just having the right people in place and drafting and bringing in the right kind of free agents that are motivated by success and being part of an organization like Green Bay is.
Sure. It's making me think back to when Justin was here. And I don't know why I'm having a brain fart right now. Who was the center that they brought from Green Bay?
Lucas Patrick.
Lucas Patrick.
Right. So they put them both out in the first press conference of the year. Like, here's your guy. Yeah. He's going to be like, here's the whatever, Olin Kreutz of the moment here. These guys are going to pair. And obviously that worked for less than 0.8 of a second. Patrick got hurt and it was never any good. But it's when I'm thinking about next year, Caleb, to me, if the Bears are going to get where they need to go, he needs to sort of own the room. Mm-hmm. But he also needs someone on that O-line to sort of be his buddy, protector, and almost mouthpiece at times, it feels like.
Yeah, and they don't have that figurehead on the O-line. And you would think that's a group and that's a unit that would be pretty important to be. And then just to talk about the standard and it not being good enough. And I think, again, it's been a carousel. Obviously, the O-line was a disaster from start to finish, I think, at times. And we were promised it wouldn't be.
They thought Ryan Bates was going to be their leader on the O-line.
Coleman
Schultz, guard.
Right? You're bringing in guys that, that can't be your leader. That can't be Caleb's guy. They should have brought someone in that's going to continue to grow with Caleb, and they're like a 1-2 punch.
God forbid they would have drafted a center or...
God.
There was a lot
not Karan Amagaji, who I like. Karan, you're a good man. I appreciate you, but that wasn't the right move. Hey, $50 super chat from Mark Gaudier. Taylor Dahl of the Making Monsters podcast said on our podcast that the team was not going over film with Caleb, and he invested in a film room, was hiring a coach to go over film at home. Contact someone that helps Caleb in Jacksonville. I don't know if listen, I could call Taylor and ask if that's true, but listen.
I'm not saying he's not looking at film.
Yeah.
I just want to go back and say I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is not studying film. He obviously is.
But Caleb has said himself, like in your interview, if you watch, you guys did a great job, where Caleb talked about like this to become a pro every day, the work I have to put in every day. Yeah. So he's acknowledged this as well.
It's a learning curve. Yeah.
Right. This isn't like some state secret that he's got growing up to do. The entire team does too. And when I talk about these guys holding themselves personally accountable about having a harder coach, I look more at the veterans than I do the young bucks that, hey, you're going to grow up naturally because of your age and maturity. Some of these veterans and how they acted this year because they were frustrated. I get it, but you got to be more professional. You don't have as much of an excuse as the rookies do. And across the board, they all should be holding each other accountable.
All right, Gregory, you're up first here. Just giving you a heads
absolutely.
up. But hold on. Let me give a great podcast tease. We're looking forward coming up next as to who the actual finalists will be for the coaching search here, because there's still 38 names on the list. We're boiling it down to 3, and Kaitlin gets a 4th. But first,
that's right. Gonna give a shout out to our guys over at Sunnyside. Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary are here to elevate your winter, help keep you warm. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Shop in the store nearest you throughout Illinois for expert guidance from their staff, or select from quality lines like Cresco or Florical. And if you go to visit sunnyside.shop for Bright Buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases, enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, Bright Buys every day, only for 21 or older or Illinois medical card holders.
It is playoff time. Thank you, Gregory. And it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action and do it with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the NFL playoffs. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. You sign up today, you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. There you go. That's a big time love from PrizePicks right there. You don't even need to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotion that can lead to big payouts. This one's for you, Gregory. Taco Tuesday.
Let's go.
There you go. PrizePicks discounts select players up to 25% off to provide even more value for your lineup, so look out for that. Download the app today. Use the code CHGO. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You can repeat that, by the way, and just get it going. Download the app today. Use the code CHGO to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 line pick. PrizePicks, run your game. All right. Who will the finalists be? Now I've been throwing some texts around, and you guys have your lists here. So, and Kaitlin, since you're guesting, of course, you're going to get to lead off here.
Oh boy!
But yeah,
you go, we go. Ducks to follow.
At some point, this is going to get whittled down, and so we're taking you into the future right now. Kaitlin,
how far in the future? That's the question.
That is right. Well,
hopefully soon.
Do you think it happens before the Super Bowl?
If the Lions are still playing, probably not.
Well, okay. So there we go. All right. So let's lead off with Kaitlin or Steven. Your finalists for the Bears coaching search 2025 are.
Yes. Ben Johnson obviously is the top one. You got to go get him. You got to figure it out. I think it's going to be a great fit. And I'm not high on rolling the dice on a first-time head coach. I don't think that's worked for the Bears. But I think in this case, he has been preparing for this moment. He's about the most ready if you're going to roll the dice on a first-time head coach. So, and he can work a long time. Hopefully, if Caleb Williams is the answer in the future in Chicago, and he's going to be here for a decade, then Ben Johnson can grow with him and they can get cooking on all cylinders. I talked to Allen Robinson a couple of weeks ago about Ben Johnson, and he said he's detail-oriented. He expects and demands so much in the way that he speaks. He's just a brilliant football mind, and I think to hear that from someone who's also gone through a little bit of the Chicago dysfunction at a point in their career, you could hear A-Rob say, like, listen, this guy is the real deal. Figure out a way to get him down there.
I love A-Rob. tried to make moves on A-Rob last year at the old combine. Be a part of CHGO. He just didn't want to.
Really?
He didn't bite. I was flirting hard. It's like, this could be a great home for you. He didn't do it. All right, who's number 2 on your list?
Mike McCarthy. And it could be my Packers coverage bias, but I do think Mike is one of one. I think he is very unique in how he sets a culture. He's a very work hard, blue collar, lunch pail guy from Pittsburgh, just very gritty. And I think the Bears and the Chicago organization as a whole has missed some grit, some old school football
Toughness.
grit.
Yeah.
So I think Mike McCarthy can bring that in. And obviously he's seen it all in terms of football and being a head coach. And I think he also manages personalities in terms of quarterbacks really well. Obviously coaching Aaron Rodgers to get to the point that he was in his career. And then Aaron Rodgers went through such a character arc in Green Bay. Even when I was covering, he was a different quarterback when I started covering him. And then he's a very different quarterback now. But Mike managed that well until it became a stagnant offense and it just really wasn't clicking anymore. And I mean, December 2nd, I think it was 2018 when Mike was fired. I was leaving Lambeau. They broke the news. We came back to cover it. And I don't necessarily agree with how Mike's time ended there because I think it was a product of the situation. They wanted a young offensive mind, and that's great. But I think he did a solid job. And going to Dallas, I never really thought that was a great fit, but it worked for a couple of years.
I mean, he had three straight years of 12 wins. That's not nothing.
Pretty good.
There's a lot to dive in there.
Would he
McCarthy.
be mean to Mark in the interview room?
He is very dry, very sarcastic, very I don't want to play games and make jokes with you. He will. He's a very he has
Patrick
a warm
Finley,
personality.
you're on notice.
Yeah. He has a very warm personality outside of the interview room. I remember games you're on the field at Lambeau Field and you're shooting stand-ups and Mike would be out there with his kids and, you see Dad Mike and he's just very, I don't know. To me, he's Pittsburgh and Wisconsin and Chicago are all kind of the same vibe to me. And I think Mike fits that.
Well, that's actually an interesting side note here. For some reason, from Nagy and especially with Flus, it's moved where the media is bullying the head coach. And
Mike will not be bullied.
Yeah. It never used to be like that. Back in the day, I mean, you were, not that I was covering at the time, but the reporters were afraid of Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
And to me, it just feels off. Why are you, you're the head coach of the football team. I'm not saying you should be a jerk to the media, but you shouldn't be on your heels as much as they have been. So it almost and I'm not, which I guess our job on this side will be harder, but I think it's better for the Bears if you have a little sternness up there.
He's a no nonsense, no BS. He's not going to give you anything that he doesn't have to give you. That's how he interacts with the media, but he doesn't look at this media part is not my job. So also I think going from Green Bay to Dallas, which is a very unique media market in the sense that, the owner is out there holding press conferences before Mike's even at the podium. Right. I think that creates a different dynamic. So who knows how that has shaped him a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it would be, I'm okay with it. I think they could do worse. I know it's not the sexy pick.
Did you like him in Green Bay?
I did. I was there 2013 through the 2018 when he got fired, and then 2 more years. But yeah, I
don't even think that we could do worse moniker is fair to him.
I don't think so either.
There's a lot of guys that we're putting that label on. We could do worse. I think there's a good array of options for the Bears, but I don't think Mike McCarthy actually fits the we could do worse label. I've started to come around to the idea that he'd actually be a very good head coach for the Chicago Bears. And of course, we all want Ben Johnson as the number 1 target, but the reality is that's not just up to the Bears. It's also up to Ben Johnson. So I think there is a very good option in Mike McCarthy.
If you're both going down that road, then are you hiring McCarthy if he wants to come here before waiting out Ben Johnson?
Oh,
it's definitely a game.
That's why I'm glad I'm not in that position.
Right? It's a game of poker because if the Saints Saints
want Mike, then
now it's about who's going to wait out all the way to Ben. And if Mike says, guys, if the Bears say to Mike, well, hey, Mike, we really want to hire you. We think you're one of our top options, but we're going to wait until we can talk to Ben in-person interview. And Mike says, well, I'm not waiting. Well, then
And
the
maybe-
Bears.
yeah.
Then the Bears have to make a decision.
Well, so that could take you to who's your number 3? I forget.
Todd Monken.
So then you have Monken 3, which is like, okay, well, if I want to wait for number 1,
Yeah.
I'm going to lose number 2. Then how comfortable am I with number 3? How comfortable would you be with number 3?
I think it would be a solid hire. I
Right.
think, again, you keep with the offensive-minded thing and experience in the sense of he's been doing it a long time. And, again, he comes from – you have to look at where these guys are coming from and the culture that they're used to and the expectation and the standard of being in Baltimore is pretty high
Right.
to be at the level that they play at. So I think they couldn't –
I mean,
they couldn't do worse.
if you right, and I like Todd Monken. His personality pops instantly. The success that the Ravens are having right now. I mean, whether Lamar gets the MVP or not, It's still impressive. Braggs, let's. Who are yours? The Gregory.
Yeah, we'll skim
3?
through because we have similar lists. We can skim through these.
Well,
we
the dark horse.
Oh yeah, the Sharkey dark horse. What do we got?
I think it's Cliff. I think don't be surprised if Cliff sneaks in here. I think then they have a guy that obviously knows Caleb quite well. I don't think Cliff will baby Caleb by any stretch. It's just a matter, to me, this is more of Cliff going, do I want to deal with what's going on in Chicago? Do I want to kind of rejuvenate this? Or do I like where I'm at with Jaden Daniels and what's going on over there?
I failed twice as a head coach. Do I want to step back in here or do I just want to hang out and ride this Commanders train?
I was for the Cliff thing too, and now Mike has catapulted ahead because it was like, for me, it was Ben Johnson, Vrabel, and then I had Cliff, but now Mike has exceeded Cliff.
Who's your 3? Or let's see your graphic.
We'll pull up my 3 here. Ben Johnson, number 1. I think we're all going to be similar in that regard. Mike McCarthy, everything I'm starting to, understand a little more in depth. I think it makes a lot of sense to have a guy that can build a culture in a locker room, that's had a history of developing great quarterbacks in this league, and also has worked with 2 different organizations that are very successful in 2 very different ownership type structures, and will come into Hallis Hall and be able to maneuver through everything that comes with Hallis Hall and the McCaskies. So I have a lot of faith that Mike McCarthy would be a great hire. And then my number 3 pick is, in looking at it through the Bears lens, I believe Brian Flores will be the 3rd finalist. If it was my finalist, and this would be my dark horse, would be Marcus Freeman. But that's a 2-way street, and I don't think Marcus Freeman will ultimately say he wants to take an interview with the Bears. But if it was up to the Bears, I do believe Marcus Freeman would be in the top 3 of the finalists. That's how much I think they like him.
Hogue had that 3 months ago that they were interested in Marcus Freeman, and but I don't think Marcus Freeman's interested in the Bears.
No, I wouldn't be.
Yeah. and Caleb said on the St. Brown podcast, I wouldn't take this job if I was Marcus Freeman. He's got a sweet gig down at Notre Dame.
Just stay over there.
Yeah, stay where you're at.
Okay.
Well, and Marcus Freeman, made it life difficult for Caleb Williams last year at Notre Dame.
True story there too.
I like what you said though about looking at it through the Bears lens, because I feel like we're not prepared, or maybe we are because we know it's the Bears, but there's going to be some name that's going to come out of nowhere, or we're going to be like, wait, what? And that's going to like inch up the finalist list, and we're all going to have to put our Bears lens on because it's going to shock us. I feel like that's how I felt when they hired Matt Eberflus. I was like, what?
I think Freeman falls in that category, and Hogue, talking about David Shaw yesterday, I got another friend, Phil Atosha, and Draft Dr. Phil. He thinks David Shaw, my guy, Draft Dr. Phil.
Draft Dr. Phil, of course. But my bad.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Get on with the Bears talk.
To Kaylin's point there, that's how I did my 3rd, because of course there's going to be some Bears level hire on there, and his name is Matt Campbell because he's a Matt, and he's got
he's a Matt.
He's a Matt, and he's got and his press conferences are horrible, so they're gonna love him. This is the guy. He's there. It's you do have to like, where are they going to go wrong? Why is Matt Campbell here? That makes absolutely no sense. We're talking to literally everyone. I get it, so maybe it's not that big of a deal, but I do slightly worry when this thing goes sideways that the Bears are going to bear it, as Lance Briggs would say, and especially
if Ben's off the table. That's when things are going to get wild.
Right. And we can kind of follow up on that coming back here. But I do wonder if their strategy is like, hey, this is who we want. We're going to wait, and we're going to put our best foot forward. And, I mean, you talk to some people in Detroit, they're like, he's not going there. And then I actually think he is. I think if I had to bet my the $7 in my wallet on who's coming here, no one carries cash anymore. But I would bet on Ben. That's to
the Bears?
Yes. If I had to bet. Because I think
he's ready.
Because I think they
ready
want
to
him.
move.
All right. Who's making this decision ultimately? By the way, we'll take a little peek at that, and then we're gonna give a little just Wisconsin, McCarthy, and Bob Uecker passed away today.
Legend.
Straight legend, one of the all-time greats. So we got a lot to do here. But first, shout out to our friends who keep you healthy, keep you fed. Factor meal kits, ready to optimize your nutrition for the year. Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. That's what you need. They're dietitian approved. They're ready to heat in 2 minutes. You can fuel right up, and you're going to feel great no matter what life is thrown at you. We know you're busy. Some have lost up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with the Factor Keto meals. If you're looking to do that, that's based on a randomized controlled clinical trial, by the way, Factor Keto. But look, there's 40 options across 8 dietary preferences. There's something for everybody at Factor. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/CHGO Bears 50 off. Use that code CHGO Bears 50 off. Get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Code is, again, CHGO Bears 50 off at factormeals.com/CHGO Bears 50 off. You should have it by now. 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Thank you to our friends at Factor.
That's right. I want to give a shout out to our guys over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. I use Game Time app very often when I'm going to baseball games in the summer, going to concerts. If you're trying to go to the Windy City Smokeout again, Kaitlin, you got to hit up the Game Time app. Maybe you'll see me crutching in like you saw me last year.
It's the highlight of my Windy City experience.
Yes, I'm sure. But you can use Game Time, and that's what I do. And it's a great user-friendly app when you go on it. Gives you an aerial view of the seating map and the super deals, the best deals, the cheapest price, the hot deal. It shows you exactly what you're looking for in your price range. And once you click on the seat, it gives you a panoramic view of that view, exactly where the seat that you're purchasing. And then most importantly, one of the biggest things for me is the all-in pricing. This feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Nothing worse than those secondary markets that try to trick you on what the actual price is. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. In Game Time ticket coverage, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. What time is it?
It's game time. Voo. All right. First of all, a couple things. Call to action here. Number one, hit the like button for Kaitlin Sharkey being in here. Let's get the likes up.
Thanks,
Let's go.
guys.
Come on.
Drive the traffic, please.
Let's show some respect. Like button.
Way more pleasant than Hogue. Hogue's always just yelling at me and Carm. It's true.
No, listen.
Maybe it's you guys that bring it out of Hogue.
No, that can't be, Kaitlin. That simply
Hogue is
cannot be.
nothing but nice to me when I interact.
Well,
see, he's a sweetheart to you
Yeah.
because you're TV royalty, and he turns it on.
He treats us like the peasants that we are while he lives in his Hogue mansion.
It's
Hogue, man.
you almost had us over last week, but
Then he
things went awry.
canceled. He
Then
thought
canceled.
about it deeper.
All right.
Every time I'm over, I drink all his whiskey.
Well,
it's a good.
if it's good whiskey.
He does a good job over there. All right, I want to do a little. We're
He
gonna
gets mad because I use his good whiskey and then I mix it with Diet Coke, and that
Oh,
really
no.
pisses him off. But I do. That's what I do.
You also like weirdly stay longer than you're wanted.
Play golf. Play golf. Play golf on his golf course.
You're just one of those guys. But all right, I want to ask. Let me get back on track here. I want to ask a question in the chat. 1 is for Kevin Warren. 2 is for Ryan Poles. And we'll have this as a conversation right now. Who do you think is in charge making this hire ultimately? If they're in the room and they're battling it back and forth between Ben Johnson and Mike McCarthy, what are they going to do? Who is making the call? 1 for Warren, 2 for Poles,
3 for Tony Medlin.
1.5. I think they're.
You think they're aligned?
I pictured this. No, I don't think they're aligned. I think they're on this Zoom call, these virtual rounds. We're not going to do the in person. I'm just picturing the Zoom call with the 10 faces on it and the coaching candidates sitting there like, okay, and like. Ryan's going to like start the interview, like unmute himself, and then Kevin just like swoops in and is like, all right, we're gonna get started with like that's how I envision it going.
Okay.
I could be totally wrong, but I think Kevin Warren is not just sitting there going like observing. He's just not doing that. He's very like and he's in Ryan's ear constantly, I think more than Ryan probably appreciates. But even though Ryan told us their relationship is great.
Hey, did you believe that when he said that? You did not believe that. Okay.
I just don't think it's in Kevin's nature or personality to just sit back and observe and be like, I trust you, hire who you want. No, Kevin's unmuting himself and like talking to the candidate immediately.
Yeah. And so if he is, let's go down that road too. Do we think that Kevin knows what he's doing, that he's going to ask the right questions, that his leadership, no one can, it's obviously a guess, but do we trust when we see, let's forget about the processes of the stadium. Let's forget about like all of that stuff. Do we just think that he's a smart guy asking the right questions that can be an asset here for the Bears? Or should he just be the asset? Let me get out of the way. You're the guy, and I'm going to go over here and finally figure out where we're going to play football in 2030.
I don't know. I mean, I think when you lay out how these Zoom calls probably go,
it is frightening to think about.
I think Ryan Poles just wants to like dial in to like what makes you a great head coach, the X's and O's, what you would do in these situational moments, and then Kevin wants to talk about
business,
the bigger picture.
Where would you like the stadium
the platitudes,
to be?
right? Exactly.
You like Chicago,
right?
Lakefront or Arlington Heights, and the candidate's
the hype speak, that like kind of takes him off, takes the whole situation off topic. Okay. Can you call plays? Can you build culture in a locker room? Like instead of just the cliche stuff, right? Like there's a lot of cliche that comes from Kevin Warren. I think Ryan Poles is trying to get down to the brass tacks.
I agree.
But to answer your question, I do think Ryan Poles makes the final decision. I think Kevin Warren is going to have heavy input and he's going to be heavily involved in this process. But I'm going to take what the Bears said at face value, that Ryan Poles is the point person and will make the final decision. But that is with heavy influence coming from Kevin Warren. But Ryan Poles has final say.
See, when he got here,
because if it was Kevin Warren, I believe he's hiring Marcus Freeman. That's what I believe. But it's not up to Kevin Warren. And it's also obviously up to Marcus Freeman, too. I'm just telling you, like, it's going to be up to Ryan Poles, and I think he does want Ben Johnson.
So when he got here, I was like, you're going to be a smart guy. You're going to empower your people. You're going to pick good people, and you're going to get out of the way. That is not what you get from him. You get a dude who wants to be very front-facing, who has articles written about him, who is front and center in Hard Knocks in ways that he didn't necessarily need to be. So
hold on. The end of the season, they let Ryan Poles talk to you guys.
Yeah, because
alone,
I don't think it was well received when Kevin was up there saying everything after Flus was fired. I think that press conference, as it should have, sent everyone into a tizzy like, who's running the show here? Right. And then they knew moving forward, like, we got to let Ryan go out there. That's why they did it in separate rooms, just to complicate
which
things.
I mean, it would have been fine, by the way. If Kevin,
yeah.
Well, it would have been fine if Kevin and George had gone up afterwards and sat down, and that would have been totally okay. But so they wanted to really make this point that this guy's in charge, and that's okay.
And then to talk to George, you guys should have had to go outside and do it in the
different
cold.
Rooms in Dallas.
It's like an Easter egg.
Our poor photographer is already schlepping all the gear.
George will be at his Honda in the media in the media lot.
The security little tent.
It's really, if people don't know this, like George, owns the Bears, and yet he parks with the media, and we park like in the boonies, where as opposed to next to the building. And I'm like, the first time I just would see him out there, I'm like, what are you doing out here, George? What's up, man? It's Carman. How are you?
I love
man?
it.
Yeah, it's adorable.
It
but it's
is
like,
adorable.
I'd park in George's spot.
He doesn't even have a spot. He just picks a far parking spot, and I'm like, George, I'll pull up next to him. I'm like, why? And then I look over. I'm like, why is George in his car right now?
Literally park on the practice field.
Yeah. George, pull up. Have a spot. George McCaskey, right here. You're the guy. Own your position life. But at any rate, and George clearly has gotten out of the way as far as much as he can. Kevin, here's the keys. I don't want to do this anymore. I can't figure this out. Please help me. But I thought that Kevin was going to be, I know how to hire the right people guy.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you want to have credit attached to, it seems like, to everything that's going on.
And I understand all the business they want to merge the business and the football side, but there's way too much talk about that because the football product is down here. Right. So you can't let's have all this synchronicity in their business side and our football side. How about win some games first and not fire 3 coaches in a season, and then you can worry about how they can merge the business side of things.
That would be lovely.
I mean,
I would love that so much.
To answer my own question,
I'm really tired of firing people every post-game show we do. It's hard.
It'd be good for you if we could get some stability, but it's
one good year.
Yeah, but I do think that ultimately, if I had to answer my own question, I think Ryan will make the hire, but I think he also makes the hire with pleasing Kevin in mind, which I think is your 1.5 sort of. I don't know how Ryan can feel very secure in his position right now.
No. Even though a year is a lifetime.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Let me spin this a little different way here.
Okay.
If Flus was fired last season and we were starting the head coaching search back then, do we think it would have been Poles or Warren? Because based on how the Flus firing press conference went, that's when my position on this shifted to, I'm thinking Kevin Warren's the one making the final call.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting because last year at this time, I mean, Ryan's his approval rating was a lot higher than it is now.
Yeah.
So would he have had more cachet to go out and do it?
Maybe, but
a lot of people think. You think that Ryan wanted to stick with Flus? There's no way he wanted to stick with him. He probably wanted to move on, and they didn't let him. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's pure speculation, but I wouldn't completely rule that out either. That hey, we're not paying this guy for. Apparently, he got a 5-year contract. We're not paying him for year 3, year 4, and year 5. What do you mean? He won 3 games in his first year that you tore down. He won 7 last year. That's 4 better. How about if he does half that? We'll be at 9-8. It'll be a sweet year. And it just didn't work out.
Right.
Remember when they were 4-2?
I do.
London was such a
vibe.
Remember,
London was amazing. Take me back. But I'm grateful that week was fun.
Right.
They
always
beat
have
the
London.
Panthers the week before, so that made that whole week just fun because they came off a win, then they won the game, so it put a bow on a great week. But it's really, remember when Roschon Johnson scored to take the lead in the final seconds of the Washington game and the feeling we all had in that moment? That was it's just wild to think how much of a benchmark moment on the NFL season that was, because if the Bears win that game, I have no doubt in my mind the second half of the season is so much different.
Do you really think that?
Yes,
I think
because
Flus is still here.
The momentum of the team would have been so much different. They just when we talked about the maturity and leadership and mental toughness, they just completely broke apart after that. And it's sad to say, to pin it on one moment in one game, but it really did. It fractured everything.
If you think that, though, that means that they're not that far away.
I have a theory that if the defense would have played better throughout the rest of the season, that Flus would still be the coach. And I'm not saying that should have been the case, but I think the defense kind of falling off the cliff. And if the offense would have been sputtering, they would have fired Shane, kept Flus. He would have helped them go through adversity again. And then if the defense was solid, I think Matt Eberflus.
It's been really hard to sell to me. I'm
not saying he should have been, but I think
I
they would have in their
head,
in their Bears lens, they would have been like, well, the defense is still good.
Well, if we rewound back to 6 months ago, I would have said the same thing. I'm like, look, have you ever heard them say anything negative about Matt Eberflus? Ryan Poles was every time it was a bouquet of flowers.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I know what you guys think, but this is what I see. I see a guy who's
the locker room loves
yeah. So I listen, and
the Washington moment fractured their trust in him because then it became this.
Well,
are you handling the Tyreek things correctly? How do you handle end of game situations? And then to have that where Kevin Byard and all these people are coming out publicly and criticizing how he handled that the end of the Washington game, then to combine it with the Packers game, then the Vikings game, then the Lions game, like it took that domino of just getting smacked in the face over and over, and then on the national spotlight on Thanksgiving for the chickens to come home to roost.
They already didn't trust him, and that was like their evidence. See, and then you have Kevin Byard. Hey, over here in Tennessee, we used to cover the sideline when they were in the 35. Have you ever heard of that? No, those yards don't matter, Kev.
Well, yeah,
right.
So all that went down. All right, I want to play one piece of audio, little rewind back to the Mike McCarthy part of this conversation as they're making their decisions. And our guy Parco brought this up, and Danny's a big Dallas Cowboys fan, and so he's never liked Mike McCarthy. So this is a little bit of unfair underlining, but when he got
Danny and hyperbole,
yeah. Well, hey. Parco's Johnny Solid, man. He would never do that. But so this was McCarthy when he got the job in Dallas. I want your reaction to this, Caleb. Like, apparently he told Jerry Jones that he had watched everything from the prior season, so he's up to speed. And then they asked him about, like, hey, what was it like watching all of that? And then here was Mike McCarthy. I think.
I need to confess. I mean, I told Jerry I watched every play of the 2019 season, but I wanted the job. So I haven't watched every play of the season, but it was just, I mean, you do what you got to do, right?
It's the uncomfortable laughter for me.
That's not Jerry laughing, by the way. Jerry's sitting there like,
are you just admitting you lied to me to get a job? Right. Who hasn't done that?
Jerry fires him right there. That would have been hilarious.
I mean, that's also McCarthy's weird, dry sense of humor. Like, he thinks he's coming off as, like, relatable and, like, funny. And everyone's like, wait, did you, though? Did you just lie?
Like, I'm wondering, like, Kevin's watching that.
And think about that, too. But think about that, too. Like, again, that's Jerry Jones. Mm-hmm. It's the Dallas Cowboys. You know, how many coaches in the history of their organization? And you're at the podium being introduced to the coach going, yeah, I lied during my interview. Like, honestly, when we talk about, like, what the Bears need, they need somebody that's like, I don't give a shit what you think about me. This is who I am, and this is what I'm going to build, and get out of my way.
Yeah. I mean, I know if they were, whining and dining at Sophia's Steak last night, I know McCarthy was sitting there, like, being himself. Like, there's no, like, and even if it's like he knows, if he really wants the job, he was saying everything that he knew he had to say.
So do you think his personality could be too strong for the Bears? That they want their little cute little guy that they can control?
Maybe. I mean, at this point in his career, I'm sure McCarthy's like, listen, you need me maybe. I don't know if I need you. I can go to New Orleans. I can go somewhere else. Like, he's not out, like, desperate for a job. But I would be curious how, like, the dinner vibes were.
That is an interesting love to be a fly on the wall.
Yes.
Everybody keeps saying Sophia's. I guess I got to hit this place up.
It's a good $70 to $100 steak in there, buddy.
Yeah.
But of course, last year, can we tell you?
In-ground pool stuff.
Yeah. This is
in-ground pool stuff. Let's go.
Yeah, 100%. You ain't going to Sophia's Day.
Yeah, everyone there has.
Well, I'm a big Bavette's fan.
I do love Bavette's.
Bavette's is a vibe.
Yeah, there you go. Well, right, but you're like You're a burger guy.
I'm a Texas Roadhouse to my core guy, and there's
exactly
nothing wrong with that.
Those butter, whatever that butter is.
Exactly.
Is
the cinnamon butter rolls. Let's go. And that's the thing. Their steaks are just as good as the other places. They just don't price them as high, but you know what? Don't judge.
And McCarthy's not a pretentious guy.
Right, he's a
lived
Texas
in Green
Roadhouse
Bay
guy.
for 15 years. Like you're living on cheese curds and beer.
He's a Texas Roadhouse guy. I guarantee it.
I mean,
Definitely.
For the record, I love Texas Roadhouse. That is an excellent choice if you're on the road.
It's great if
Absolutely.
you're having a birthday.
Yeah.
Hey, here's another. Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because you were going to talk about.
I have no idea what I was
You were going to say
talk about.
something about like steakhouses or something, but I can't remember. Regardless,
I
whatever.
just fly on the wall at the dinner. I just wonder, I don't know where I was going.
Oh, yeah. The vibes would be curious.
Just do they have just enough confidence? But wherever you want to go is totally fine. I completely lost my train of thought here. Greg.
Okay, so going into like the thought process of Mike McCarthy coming back to this division, right? Like how much of it is an emphasis to him to like, all right, you guys let me go and now I'm back. I'm gonna make your life miserable.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think he'd also, let's say he gets the job, and this was something I was thinking about the other day too as we were going back to Caleb. I think he would want to bring a veteran quarterback in the room for Caleb. No disrespect to Tyson Bagent.
Easy.
I know. I'm like
barking up a terrible
everyone loves
tree now.
Tyson Bagent, and I'm not. But I think that presence of like a guy, like vet quarterback to back up Caleb, to just be in the room with him. And no disrespect to Austin Reed, but what does Reed bring into the table in terms of like game planning throughout the week?
Right.
And come on, let's be real. So I think Mike would be like, we need to get a vet in here. We need to have a strong quarterback room, because in Green Bay, they always had that. He knew Aaron was his guy, but they had backups that were like.
That's another selling point with Mike McCarthy. Ben Johnson, we do not know what his coaching staff will look like.
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy, whether you don't have the names right away, you can trust he's going to be able to build a coaching staff, which is very important.
Well, look, the third guy in that room, because we're not moving Tyson out of here, we can bring in the next Nathan Peterman. That's totally fine.
Right.
Like, I think Tyson should be learning from somebody too.
Exactly.
He shouldn't be the smartest guy.
Like,
in there.
I'm not, like, I'm
said
sitting,
it.
I'm like, this is the youngest room, and that's not a good thing.
No,
like,
I agree.
what's
right.
Carson Wentz doing? Get him somebody.
Right. And well, and also like, yeah, sure. And by the way, you didn't really have to get rid of Peterman. He was a solid Peterman.
I think that they rolled the dice on Rippon not getting taken.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Remember that moment, Bears fans, when you're all screaming at me that Rippon's better than
we
Bagent?
had him, we had him
Sure.
sweating for a week.
I wasn't sweating.
Oh,
anything.
he was sweating. After the Hall of Fame game, Rippon.
He was hot in the Hall of Fame.
He was
game.
coming for
But
Bagent's
we-
spot.
Everybody, look,
Bagent settled in.
when you
He
know
got
talent
lucky.
to the level that I know talent, you don't sweat.
He thinks he's the quarterback whisperer
I do.
because he identified Josh McCown
Before,
while you were in Green Bay. No one else knew.
before you were here, Caitlin, that I told everybody that if they play McCown, or I just said leave McCown in there, he's winning. He's throwing. He threw 20 touchdown passes. He had 1 interception. Bears fans, I don't know if you're aware of this. Bears fans, I love you, but you can be exhausting. No, I got to go back to Jay. That whole locker room wanted. And by the way, Josh McCown should be a part of this next coaching staff.
Well, and that's why Brian Flores is my third on my list of the Bears finalists, because they hire because everything has to have a quarterback solution. So if Brian Flores is your head coach, I think Josh McCown would be your offensive coordinator, which I think George McCaskey would absolutely love.
Josh McCown's going to be a head coach someday in the NFL. If you're literally interviewing everybody, you might as well talk to him too. I mean, that would be a lot better than Matt Campbell, who I made my number 3, because we all know your dysfunction.
Maybe Tyson will go somewhere else. And
I think, well, Tyson's got 1 more year here, and then someone's going to come after Tyson, and Tyson's going to be the next Brock Purdy, but better. Purdy, but better. Bagent. There'll be shirts everywhere.
How do you think they go about, Kaitlin, we talk so much about the culture and leadership? You highlighted how much different that was in Green Bay versus Chicago. And this year, I think one of the things I said many times here on this show was too many captains, not enough leaders.
Yeah.
8 captains.
Which was a ridiculous number.
And, right.
If you have 8 captains, it's like the quarterback thing. If you have 8 captains, you don't have any captains.
Right.
You need 8 guys so that 4 of them, like you're rotating who's doing the coin toss. Like, what?
The old leadership council.
Oh, no.
The legend of
I
Flus.
don't have any problem with leadership councils, and I think they're important to
Would you
player-led teams. But, like, 8 captains?
Who would you say being in that locker room is for you the people that would qualify if you're going to pick two as the true leaders or captains in that room? And if there's zero, say zero.
I have one, but he's too. TJ's up there, but he's almost too nice.
Yeah. I mean, Cole is a leader in that locker room.
Cole's up there too, but like
too nice.
I give Cole shit every week. He comes.
Cole's very nice.
Dial him up.
I don't know how much Cole wants to get after everybody. I think Cole like
that's the thing. They don't have anybody that's going to be like, you were trash today.
Right.
I need you to be better.
I mean, like I think Cole said at some point, like, look, man, if I've got to worry about you and it's taken away from my prep. Like I'm not here to babysit you. So that's partly like, whereas I'm hoping that Ryan hears that when guys who he respects and likes a lot, who want to win, who have been here, who grew up here, are saying that about your locker room. You can't tell. Like, I keep on hearing this great locker room. Hey, man, there are plenty of guys. I hope on their exit interviews, like, I hope guys were willing to throw people under the bus when they were walking out of there.
I think they were.
Okay. That's interesting.
I think they were. Not throwing under the bus, but listen, like, especially because a lot of them don't even know where their future is in Chicago outside of a few core.
Right.
Like,
but that's where, like, next year, guys that are good lead by example players. And I think there's probably, if we just had, instead of asking who the leaders are, which to us qualifies as people that are going to be vocal to one another, call people out. But there are 5 to 10 guys that are lead by example players.
For sure. And those guys are important.
Those guys are very important, but those guys also have to look in the mirror and understand that their role isn't just about themselves. The team's success is their success. And whether they like it or not, once you become a veteran, once you get those contracts, now it is incumbent on you to challenge the people around you. And that goes in any walk of life, in any kind of profession. I've talked about this a million times as a bricklayer. I went through this where when you're the laborer and you just get on a job site for the first time, you're there to keep your mouth shut and learn. But then as you get on the wall, you have to motivate the laborers to work. That's not my job. That wasn't my job qualification, but I still had to talk to each kid and say, this is what you got to do. And each one was different. Some were softer. You had to kind of have a fine touch with them. And others you had to threaten to fight them by the end of the day. And that would light a fire under their ass to work. And like, that's called being a leader. That's called caring about just not your job, not just me laying a brick, but caring about how the guy behind me is making the mud. And like, that's just, to me, that's the philosophy in any job. And so it frustrates me to hear that these guys aren't willing to call each other out.
I think they're just silent.
All I ever do is call people out.
I think they're silent leaders in there, unfortunately. And lead by example guys, because Cole Kmet's going to work hard. Jalen Johnson's going to work hard.
Right. These guys are not the problem, clearly.
No, but they're also not.
Silence is being complicit.
Some guys just have a quiet personality, and they're like, listen, I show up first, and I leave the facility last. I'm doing my job. I'm doing my part. And then they get an attitude that everyone else isn't, but like, they're just, some guys are not guys that are going to be like, hey, I need you to like get your act together. Well,
I mean, every time I feel like I'm searching social media, there's another video of Roquan firing up the Ravens.
Yeah.
Right. And when he left here, Jalen at the time,
they didn't like it.
They didn't like it. This is a big void in the locker room that's leaving. It was not a popular thing. And they really, Tremaine did not fill that void on the field or off the field. No. He's not that guy. No. Professional, but yeah, exactly. That was a swing and a miss. All right, before we get out of here, Bob Uecker,
legend,
the legend, 90 years old, passed away. The news coming out this morning. You, of course, being up in Milwaukee. One of my favorite Uecker moments is like going up to Cubs games at Miller Park, and like, if you didn't leave, first of all, it's a great tailgate. So if you got up there early, it was always a good time. But if you left late, so I'm sitting there, I'm listening to TMJ outside the ballpark, and I'm annoyed that I'm late. And he's like, and Uecker was like, "We always tell you to come early to avoid the traffic, but nobody ever listens." And I was like, this guy is just like, he's just literally talking to you. And
oh yeah, there were so many moments covering the Brewers where I would just be in the dugout, like getting ready for my live shot or whatever, and then you're sitting there and all of a sudden Euchre like comes out of the dugout and you just like turn around and you'll like, I always remember the first time I would see him or like see him walking down the hallway to go to, and I'm like, oh my God. Like as many times as I saw Bob Euchre, I was like, it's Bob Euchre. Like he just said hello to me. He's just like, he felt like in Milwaukee, and for people that grew up with the Brewers and that whole fan base, like he felt like everybody's grandpa, even though he wasn't. Like he just felt that way. He's so nostalgic for so many people and brings so many memories to the front in the baseball world. So.
Well, and this is no shade at any of the great young broadcasters that are out there, but like nowadays you're so afraid of owners and the amount of power they have in being in, having their own TV networks, that you have to be vanilla. So there's just very few guys that have been there long enough that there's no way you could ever fire him. You weren't firing Bob Euchre. The dude could say whatever he wanted to say. The same thing with Harry. Same thing with Hawk. Like those guys, it just that breed is like, it's like this is one of the last that we're doing it. They can literally do whatever they wanted. And now, for everybody else, we got to get in there and just be the same cookie cutter guy and try to
you just have to have the voice.
Right.
It's not about that true passion. Like I was listening to Paul Allen on a call.
There's a great one.
Paul is still one of those, that dying breed you're speaking of, because there was a play on Monday where the Vikings take a sack. Sam Darnold's trying to step up in the pocket, and Paul Allen's like, "You're holding on to the ball too long. Throw the ball." And I'm just like, that. You're just so refreshing to hear that as a fan, like somebody calling that
as it is, like calling it like it is.
Right.
Like
he sounded like he was dying.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. It was great, and we need more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Harry was the best with that stuff. But this is about Uke, and it's just a huge loss.
It is.
I mean,
unexpected. We knew this day would come, and I think.
Did he work last year?
He would. Yeah, he would not do the full slate that he was doing. He had dialed it back in the last couple of years, but he'd still do games.
See, that's how I always like that one too with Hawks. Like I want to die in the booth.
Yeah.
Right here. Get up. I'm gone. Like,
oh boy.
They love doing their gig. It was, and I mean, baseball too. That's like
it's a different
every
kind of
day. It's your friend. It's a comfort. It gets it makes your summer that much more relaxed and enjoyable. The whole thing.
I'll do this job every day until one of us die, me or you.
You're gonna die
Who's
right
it
in this
gonna
chair.
be? Said one of us.
Listen, Greg's gonna kill me one day, Kaitlin. If it's gonna happen in that alley.
But I'll do it. I'll. There will be tears going down my, streaming as I'm killing you.
Of joy.
I'll miss you.
Yeah.
But
nearly ran over my foot the other day.
Stop it! You get out of the way.
Yeah.
Get your fat foot out of the way.
It was very nice of you to drive.
I almost ran him over because he's in the garage doing whatever downstairs, and he forced me to take him on an errand trip around the city. He's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm like, "Going home." It was
important.
He's like, "Just quick little detour. Quickly, two stops. Two stops.
We picked up the pill
running
for the
around.
dog, which was huge, and then you took me to the train. It was the best 15 minutes of your day, and we got on Discord. We hung out with the people. I'll be in there today. Discord today. Train ride home. Me and you. Maybe you'll join. Cam, thanks for coming, by the way.
Good to see you guys.
It was a treat having you.
Yeah, no time, anytime.
It's not really the off season.
There's no off season here. I was at Bulls last night with we're like, what are our lives?
I was so excited. I was like, I'm like, will you come in? She's like, I will. So there you go.
I was in my Bears lane.
There
Bulls lane, now I'm in Bears lane.
$20, Seth Crane. One more super chat. Kevin and Ryan are the scene between Star-Lord and Thor about who's really in charge. There you go.
There you go.
Yes.
Carm, do you get that reference?
No,
No chance. It's a Marvel reference.
That's
Star-Lord
deeply.
I was confused DC and Marvel, so I set this one out.
Okay, there you go. I mean, that's
little Avengers talk.
the superhero.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
It's Thor.
No, it's great.
Avengers.
Yeah, no,
Good stuff.
Yeah. You gonna go home and play Call of Duty?
I'm not a video game guy.
I could go on hours talking about video games and men in video games, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I used to, like 10 years ago, but now no.
Okay.
The only thing
You're
I used
growing
to
up. I mean, listen.
Madden in Grand Theft Auto back in the day.
Grand Theft Auto.
But I wouldn't even play the missions. I just drive around running people over. So I don't know what that says
Like
about
car.
me.
Yeah, you weren't even playing a game.
Yeah, no. Just I didn't even know it, but I was practicing for when I
played
started
videos
working with
video
Carman.
games when I was a kid. I played Ms. Pac-Man. I played Centipede. I played
yeah.
Donkey
Speaking
Kong.
of video, you should have seen this guy when we were at the Phoenix Studios in PHNX. This guy playing Pac-Man, or was it Miss
Love
Pac?
It was Ms. Pac. It was I don't remember. Whatever it was, I wanted the record before I left there, and I made it.
It was actually the
That's
most
fun.
impressive thing I've ever seen him do. He dominated.
Thank you.
It was wild.
Thank you. $10 from Crystal
Now,
on the
things
way
he was
out.
yelling as he was playing it was.
$10 from Crystal. Just sending love, especially for Braggs. Hit the like button and bear down. Crystal's coming out to Northwestern tonight. Cats in Maryland. 8 o'clock
Oh
tip.
my God!
Yep.
You are grooming her for failure, Crystal. Stop wasting your time with the Northwestern Wildcats. Purdue won last night. They're still on the road. I'll take you to Mackey Arena anytime you'd like.
Best sporting event in Chicago right now is Northwestern basketball, even though it's going south quickly. But I'm telling you, got to come out.
I covered plenty of Northwestern basketball.
See, there we go.
Stop telling people.
I cover
to
it all
watch
at
Northwestern.
WGN.
That's
We got it all covered.
Yeah, the sure thing's always
Exhaustingly.
out there. Yeah,
Exhaustingly, we have it all covered.
GS Sports Tonight, you on?
No, not tonight.
Okay.
I got to talk to Wayne Larrivee about Mike McCarthy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's another
Wayne
iconic
Larrivee.
Yeah.
You can tell him that he absolutely broke my heart. One of my childhood heroes, right? A guy that I would watch call Bears games, and a guy that covered the Jordan Bulls, like the golden era of my life. And then he leaves us for Green Bay. And now,
home.
like, all these iconic Green Bay moments over Chicago with his voice on the call. And every time it's like a knife through my heart. And he did this. So you can tell him
I'll
that
tell
he has put a knife through our collective
The
Chicago
dagger.
fans'
The
heart.
dagger
The
through
dagger. Exactly. I hope he's happy.
Growing up with Wayne was amazing. Shout out to JJ, but growing up with Wayne was amazing.
I'm looking forward to talking to him. That'll be on
Bulls.
GN Sports.
He was great with the Bulls.
Yeah, he's a Jim Durham guy. Jim Durham was the best.
I was anybody that covered the Bulls in the 90s.
I mean, Wayne was good on the Bulls. He was elite on the Bears. All right, we're leaving. Kaitlin, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching.
Guys.
Hit the like button on the way out. We're back tomorrow with the Friday show. Adam Rank.
Friday afternoon shows are back, so make sure you tune in at 1 p.m. Central tomorrow.
He'll tell you why the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl next
Of course.
year. Yeah,
Right on track.
Meatballs unite.
that's right. We love Rank. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
We all silly like the mayor.